I'm very grateful to be amongst all of you this wonderful Karthik evening. First time I'm coming to visit this community of Champagne. I've been coming to Bloomington since almost about 17 years. Yeah, almost. And I've heard about this place, but coming for the first time. So, also, it's a day of Halloween, of the most weirdest form of celebrations on the planet. From a scriptural perspective, the whole idea of human life is to become as divine as possible, and this celebration is to become as demonic as possible. And we may feel it's just a small celebration, but right from childhood, when children just face these ghastly things, it's not that they become fearless of ghosts. They become desensitized with violence and negative things. That's actually a sad part of this celebration. It's not just innocent. They become desensitized with these kind of things. Anyways, whatever it is, this is how the celebrations of the world will keep on happening. In fact, all the religious and spiritual celebrations are more or less also happening in a similar manner, where the essence is lost and only the superficialities have taken over. His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj, one of the spiritual leaders in ISKCON, who's born and brought up in the West and preaches all across the globe, he was telling many years ago that in the West, Christmas means shopping. But unfortunately, when in India it has become like that. Diwali means shopping, Navratri means shopping, and so on. Every festival has just turned out to be more and more mundane. Eat what you like, drink what you like, sleep whenever you want. That particular way disrupt everything. It's not a surprise, because in the Spirit of Bhagavatam, a literature which was written the last amongst the entire gamut of Vedic literature. Now this is very important to understand also how the Spirit of Bhagavatam came about. So before the Spirit of Bhagavatam, the body of knowledge was known as Veda. Veda means knowledge. And that was divided into 4. Rig, Yajur, Sam and Atharva. Why? Because as Kali Yuga is progressing, there will be people whose minds will not be able to comprehend the whole knowledge. When you read too much of information, you can probably retain it, but to synthesize it is a very difficult task. So synthesis means to make sense of all this kind of information and know how to apply. That is what is called synthesis. So therefore, they figured it out that as time will progress, barely there would be one person who could actually read all the Vedas in his life and actually make sense of it. So, therefore it was divided amongst 4 different kinds of rishis. One a speciality in Rig, one Yajur, one Atharva and one Sam. And within the Vedic literature, there are 4 different sections of knowledge which are there. One is called Brahmana, one is called Aranyak, one is Samhita, and one is Upanishad. These are the 4 categories in any particular Vedic literature. So you can understand these to be themes of discussions. Aranyak means those texts within the Vedic literature which talk about forest life. Forest life means at some point of time it is assumed that we should retire. And that is equivalent to forest life. Earlier people would go to forest, now you don't go to the forest, but the principle of retirement must be there. Stop enjoying the facilities which you are enjoying, now give up. Be dependent on nature, that is what is forest life in essence. So those texts were called Aranyak. Those which were more about prayers and glorification, then those were categorized as Samhitas. So when we say Brahma Samhita, Manu Samhita or whatever, whenever there is the word Samhita coming, the next question is which Veda this Samhita belongs to, because every Samhita belongs to some Veda. Every Aranyak belongs to some Veda. Brahmanas are a bit of ritual and do's and don'ts kinds of texts. And Upanishads, the fourth category of texts in that body of knowledge, these were highly metaphysical texts, means talking about purely about spirituality. So in the Vedas, the highest of the kind of discussion is what is called as Upanishad. You have heard about Upanishad, right? Most of the Upanishads are very small, 40 texts, 10 texts, 100 texts, like small books. Very rich, very condensed in spiritual knowledge. So whenever you hear Kathopanishad, Mundokopanishad, Kenopanishad, Ishopanishad, it belongs to one of the Vedas. Like that. After writing all of this, which is basically a pool of lakhs and lakhs, hundreds and thousands of texts and verses, by the time you could actually just read all of this, you will reach to, I think, 30-40 years of your life. And considering Kali Yuga, you will forget where you started. Because I experienced a similar thing when I was reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. It has 12 cantos. When I started actually this was, I specifically remember in 2003 I became severely ill and I was admitted in hospital. And I thought, let me make the best use of this time, so let me start reading the Bhagavatam. So I would read about 16 hours a day, 16, 17 hours a day, doing nothing, just take some medicines, read. Medicines, read, sleep, medicines, read, sleep, eat, like that. So I finished the first reading of Srimad Bhagavatam in 26 days. It was crazy. I retained nothing. That's the main point. That's the main point. When you do some kind of mischief like this, you don't get anything. It's a waste of time. Enthusiasm was high. And I was thinking I'm reading 17 hours, 18 hours, Sunday 16 hours, just reading. It was all Bhagavatam, but I forgot everything. What I recollected was, repeatedly in many of the classes, the symptoms of people of Kali Yuga would be explained. In the first canto. Manda Sumandamati Manda Bhagya Upadrita. Less intelligent, dull, dim-witted, unfortunate, always disturbed. So this is the characteristics of people in Kali Yuga. Means all of us. Don't take it personally, but you also take it personally. Some people may argue, no, I am so happy. Scriptures have this depressing kind of view, negative. No, that's not true. For us to be joyful, there is an excessive need to create support system for that joy. That itself shows that we are less intelligent, depressed, that kind of thing. For example, when you see a small child, look at that small child. Full of joy. He has no sense of what car he has, what food he is going to wear, whether mother has put clothes on him or not. Whatever. Inherently there is joy. But in Kali Yuga, most of us inherently, as you become sensible, your joy diminishes. The more you grow in age, the more there is stress in life, whether you accept or not. So that's the nature. Just a couple of hours ago I was with someone and we met after a couple of years, 3-4 devotees, we gathered at that place. And there was a talk, oh, all of you just look the same, you haven't aged, you all are so happy, smiling faces. I told, the more a person smiles, he's hiding some pain. And in Hindi there is a song on it. You know the song?
Yeah.
Go. ये बात सच है कि नहीं? Isn't it true? There is a song that why are you laughing so much? What is the pain that you are hiding? So there is a very famous song in Indian cinema. So that's true. The sense of joy is only diminishing as Kali Yuga is progressing. For whatever reason, you may have hundreds of reasons. And knowing that the living entity's natural position is not to be depressed or sad, you can never ever accept that I have been joyful for 20 years, let me have 1 year of misery. That's okay. Can you resolve that thing in your heart? No. Can you say Monday to Friday I'll be joyful, let Saturday be depressing? You can never do that. Consciously you cannot. Because you are constitutionally not designed for it. Just like a 7-year-old boy today was telling what will happen towards the end of Kali Yuga, everyone will die. I said, yeah. He said, no, but I don't want to die. I said, but then what do you understand about living also? But it is so mysterious. Young children also don't want to die, even though they have not experienced death consciously. Correct? None of you want to die. How many of you experienced it? When you say, I don't want to eat this thing, because you have experienced that it is either bitter or sour or spicy. When you like something, it is based on your experience. If you have consciously not experienced death, why do you fear it so much? And it's not you as adults. Children also fear. After just 6-7 years, I don't know how that sense comes. But yeah, from a scriptural perspective, because you are constitutionally not designed to die, you are supposed to remain eternal. So, considering these circumstances that you are meant to be eternal and therefore you will always seek something eternal, the proof of it is you are meant to be eternal, you are meant to be joyful. And that should be Nitya and Shashvat, continuous and eternal, right? That experience of being joyful. And therefore, unconsciously we want to do these things in every effort which we do. We want to preserve our success and we want to amplify it. Knowing that this is just not possible just by mundane means, the whole gamut of Vedic literatures were written. All the sciences and metaphysical sciences. And yet the person who compiled this, Vyasdev, he felt emotionally dissatisfied after writing so much. A person who is an intellectual, he writes a thesis and there is no challenge to that thesis. Don't you think he should be having a fulfilling experience? After hundreds of years of effort, you bring out some literature and still you feel slightly disturbed or depressed or unaccomplished, unfulfilled. So, it is explained at that time, Vyasa, who is glorified. See, Vyasa is the only single author of all forms of philosophy which we have. Whether you follow Advaita Marga, impersonalism, whether you follow personalism Marga, all the various kinds, you follow Yoga Marga or whatever. He is the one who has written all these different forms of yogas and philosophies. You want to follow the path of Vaishnavas, Vishnu Bhakti, he has written. You want to follow the path of Devi, Shakta worship or Shakti worship, then he has written. You want to follow Shaiva worship, he has written that. One single author. You name it and he'll pull out. This is the solution. and that person gets depressed. It's amazing how life can cheat you despite the greatest of your accomplishments. That is the principle what is being highlighted. And at that time Narad Muni comes. Surprisingly, Narad Muni is always present when some kind of such issue happens. He's just there at the right time. Naturally, Vyasadeva asks him what to do. And Narad Muni just tells him that you have not sufficiently glorified the Supreme Lord and His loving pastimes. And therefore you are experiencing this disappointment in your heart. Now, logically speaking, you have told all forms of yogas and everything. How does this aspect of just simply glorifying the Lord satisfy the heart? It does not fit the logical brain, right? You have given too much solutions of many things. But Narad Muni understood this, that Vyasadeva understood that if Narad Muni is telling something, that let me get deeper into it. He could also initially not make the logical conclusion. And therefore, but still, out of the discipline that when the Guru is giving some instruction, there must be some mystery behind it or purpose behind it. And therefore he follows this. And he starts glorifying Krishna and all the avatars of Vishnu from the point of view of the living entity wanting to establish relation with him. See, the Lord has been glorified in the Upanishads. The Supreme Absolute Truth, He is the Omkar, He is all pervading, there is full glory of Lord explained. Vishnu is powerful, all these things is described in Vishnu Puran, Shiv Puran, there is glorification of personality. But there was no clear explanation how the living entity should establish his relationship with the Lord in the manners of the routine of his life. There was that you do this yajna and perfect things and chant and then you get this mercy. Now that's not your routine, right? That's routine of very few people. Great rishis, and even when they were doing the routine, they were met with obstruction from the demons. Like when Vishwamitra wanted to do yajna, there was a problem, so he went to Dasharatha and brought Ram and Lakshman with him. You have heard that story, right? So how does a common person who has alpa ayu means less lifespan, alpa medha, less alpa mati, less wisdom, when these kind of characteristics there, how do you connect such a person with the Supreme Absolute Truth? Someone who is not reading Samhitas and Aranyaks and Upanishads. I just give you a background of those words in the edition, just to make you a sense of what it means. And therefore, Granthrat or this book, Srimad Bhagavatam, was written specifically considering the situation of people in Kali Yuga, considering our situation. And therefore, when you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, right from the first canto till the 12th canto, you will see. I don't know how many of you have ever read some parts of the Vedas. It's filled with mantras and procedures, one after other. Glorification of a God, whose his power, his ability, and the living entity performing procedures. That's most part of it. So Vyasadeva starts writing. When you read this, you will see people from the time span, right from Satyuga till the beginning of Kali Yuga. Different classes of people, kings, queens, their secretaries, ministers, ordinary people, beggars, mendicants. Some rishis are also discussed. All of them struggling through their journeys of life. The most interesting part of Bhagavatam is the struggle of devotees. And when you read most of them, you will feel that you belong to some part of that struggle, to lesser or greater degree. From that position, how they connected to the Supreme Absolute Truth. And when you read the connecting point, it was not loaded with lots and lots of austerities, but it was enriched with sentiment, with an attitude. So Srimad Bhagavatam essentially is a literature which is like a bhakti yoga. It highlights the bhakti yoga principle. You can purify your mind and heart through many processes. One of the ways is keep a right attitude, humble attitude, and glorify the Lord. Such a simple literature. After Vyasadeva wrote this, he suddenly felt a lot of joy in the heart. He felt satisfied. He felt the purpose of all this thousands and thousands and lakhs of shlokas has now been achieved. So, right from Satyuga till Kali Yuga, in the 12th canto, there is a description, there is a chapter called the symptoms of Kali Yuga. What will be the symptoms of Kali Yuga? Just before Kali Yuga started, Krishna departed. And it is explained that when Krishna was in Prabhas Kshetra, which currently is in Dwarka, anybody has been there anytime? Yeah. So when Krishna was there, he realized that now very soon I have to wind up my pastimes. So he ensured that his entire progeny also was cleaned off, so that in future there won't be a tradition which says hum to Krishna ke janam parampara se aa rahe. Such kind of nepotism won't exist. So he wiped off everything. It is such a touching chapter. Why? Because an ordinary person, he lives his entire life not just to simply satisfy himself, but to satisfy his extensions, his children. And sometimes people say, I'm okay, I want to die, but I want to give this away now. As long as I'm giving it away to my progeny, I'm fine. Prabhupada puts it philosophically as extended sense gratification. Means I cannot enjoy myself much now. I am now 80 years, so let my children and grandchildren enjoy. But ultimately, I am nourishing the my spirit, my wife, my children, my. So that nourishment is happening to that my only, that ego. So we may say that kitna sacrifice kiya in logo ke liye. How much sacrifice I have done for my family. Okay. Philosophically, it means zero. Because you sacrifice for your family, right? Even a dog does, even an elephant. That is bare minimum you could do. It's not that one should not do that. But don't make a big deal out of it. Would you do even 1/10 of that for someone else outside your family? Let's talk about it. Let's discuss that. Measure it. 1/10 Prabhu's and Mataji's. 1/10. 1/10 of all of your earning, has it been sacrificed for someone else whom you have no connection? No. And we want the credit to be the sacrificer. So, Srimad Bhagavatam puts these kind of perspectives very beautifully. Why? To break the ignorance and the illusion. So anyways, when Krishna was there, he saw that these kind of things, he himself destroyed a person who had 16,108 wives. What a pride he could have taken on his heritage, his legacy. Isn't it? People show, look, Prabhu, this is our family, my father, great-grandfather. This is our property. This much is our land. That is our tribe. Krishna had 16,108 wives. From each wife he had 10 sons and one daughter from each. So 11 into 16,108 children. All of which, except one, perished before he died. He only orchestrated it. So it's a principle of great amount of detachment. And at that time, all the devatas who were assembled, they gathered there thinking that, oh, it's going to be maybe forever next when we will take darshan of the Lord, because the Lord is always in Kshir Sagar with Lakshmi somewhere, and unless and until a demon tortures the devatas, they don't have the impetus or inspiration to even go and visit the Lord. And when they go, they have to chant a lot of prayers, invoke the blessings. Never the devatas have succeeded to have the audience of Vishnu without either Brahma or Shiva being present. Because you need some other powerful people to invoke the presence of God. So they are thinking that let us now finally at least once go and see Krishna, take his blessings and so on. So from the side of his eyes, you have peripheral vision, you can make the sense of who is there even without directly looking. So Krishna could see that the devatas had come. He did not cast a glance on any one of them, he just turned his face that enough of these guys. They are coming because they just want some material blessings so that they can continue with the services of this world. He looked aside. And then he instructs Uddhav, who is his dear devotee, that Kali Yuga is not a place for gentlemen to live. I personally do not want to see one day of Kali Yuga. So, I think you should also not do that. So whatever I am telling, take these instructions, pass it on, and then you also plan your departure. On the contrary, we want to elongate our lives. 5,500 years already into the Kali Yuga. We do not share the same way of Krishna. Not that now we have to get into a mass ritual of giving up our bodies. But just a perspective. Krishna, who has created the universe, he says that Kali Yuga is not worthy for gentlemen people. Why? Because even though you may be in a bubble of 1% of the civilization of the world, right now, most of you, the facilities which you enjoy, still you are not going to be bereft of the influence of Kali Yuga. Upadritaha and Mandabhagya, these two are for all. Upadrita means always disturbed. You were disturbed in the remote villages of India. You were disturbed when you did some education in the cities. And then you came here to finally be satisfied, and you are still disturbed. After 20 years, that will be the condition exactly. It's not going to change. Things will change for sure. Why? Because the sense of satisfaction is not dependent on things. Therefore, you will always be disturbed. Nature of Kali Yuga is the vibrations of Kali Yuga will not make you feel settled. That is Upadrita. So in the 12th canto, some of the symptoms are explained. I will read some of the chapters before I come to the main shloka of discussion. So read some of the shlokas. So it writes, Shukdev Goswami is saying to Parikshit, religion, truthfulness, cleanliness, tolerance, mercy and duration of life. Kalena Balina Rajan, it will diminish day by day because of Kali Yuga. Wealth alone will be considered the sign of man's good birth, proper behavior and fine qualities. So if a person is rich, whatever he does, we ignore it. Oh, it's okay. All rules apply to the less powerful and poor. The rich are always excused. Law and justice will be applied only on the basis of one's power. Do you all believe it? Agree on this or not? Men and women will live together merely because of superficial attraction. And success in business will depend on deceit. Womanliness and manliness will be judged according to one's expertise in sex. And man will be known as a Brahmana just by wearing a thread. What harsh naked truths being spoken. These things are right now happening. And people take pride in this. A person's spiritual position will be ascertained merely according to external symbols, and on the same basis people will change from one spiritual order to the next. A person's propriety will be seriously questioned if he does not earn a good living. And one who is very clever at juggling words will be considered a scholar. This you see across all religions. People these days keep so many. YouTube and Instagram is filled with so many preachers speaking so much. But what has happened? The consciousness of civilization is not risen. It's just degrading day by day. A person will be judged unholy if he does not have money. In the sense that if someone is poor, then he is considered unworthy. In other words, if you do not have money, then you are not even considered worthy for spiritual authority. That point will also come eventually. Hypocrisy will be accepted as virtue. A person will think that he is fit to appear in public simply because he has taken bath. Means earlier times people would think themselves worthy to be in public only when you truly have some virtue or quality. Up to even without taking bath, just apply spray and you are good to attend meeting. That's how it is. As the earth becomes more and more crowded with corrupt politicians, whoever amongst any of the social classes shows himself to be the strongest will gain political power. Citizens will suffer greatly from cold, wind and snow. Eventually, this is now describing what will happen towards the end of Kali Yuga. The maximum duration of life will become 50 years. So by the time the Kali ends, the bodies of all creatures will be greatly reduced in size, and all the principles of Varnashram Dharma will be ruined. The kings will mostly be thieves. So this is what it is. And then Lord Kalki will appear and so on. So anyways, so Bhumi Devi, who is enduring, who has seen her journey all the way from Satyuga, from Treta, Dwapar and Kali, so she is giving a perspective. She is saying, my dear Lord, now who is the husband of Bhumi? It is Varahadev, because he rescued her. So she is praying that, my dear Master, how long will I be away from your service? There have been so many big people with great egos who have come and ruled upon me, killing so many innocent people, and none of them are there, and I am still here. I cannot take the burden of the sin of people. See, in the gross form, from the point of view of just earth, you can never make the earth heavier or lighter, because anything which is being produced is produced within the earth. So when you die, it's not that the earth becomes a bit lighter. Or when some new person is born, it doesn't become heavier. It's an absolute system. But Bhumi Devi is feeling the burden, the weight of what? Of the sin of living entities, of the sinful approach. Just like within your own family, if someone is a hypocrite, liar, or within your families, if you have experiences, the moment you come, you feel the burden of such people around you. If you do something wrong and it weighs in your heart, you do feel, right? It's a burden on my shoulders, burden on my chest, burden on my heart. So that subtle things weigh in a big way. So Bhumi Devi is feeling the burden, and therefore she is praying, my dear Lord, please rescue me from this deep pain. I don't know what to do. So in this prayer, she's reflecting on all these things, invoking the blessings of the Lord. Shukdev Goswami Maharaj speaks to Parikshit This is the condition of people in Kali Yuga and even the planets which holds of them. But a very important statement then he says, Kalera dosha nidhi rajan. In Kali Yuga, the dosha are like a nidhi, treasure. Lots and lots. So people have rare quality of doshas. Means, you say a rare good quality. So rare bad qualities. In the sense that you are not generally just bad. There are so classic bad qualities that you will be surprised how weird a person can be. Why weird he is. So Kalera dosha nidhi means that. Kalera dosha nidhi rajan. Yet astihi eko mahan guna. So this figure of speech is extreme bad is going to happen or is already happening, but there is mahan guna. What is that? Kirtanada eva krishnasya mukta sangha param rajet. Just by the kirtan of Krishna, by chanting the holy names of Krishna, one can simply achieve the perfection of one's life. And therefore this encouragement to this principle is given, Hari Kirtan. Then furthermore he explains the importance of this principle of Kirtanad eva Krishnasya. Why that? So he's saying, every different yuga there were different processes for perfection. In Satyuga, considering the mind of people and the support system given by the Prakriti or nature, a certain system was recommended. For example, in Satyuga, the environment was such that naturally people would be inclined to seek the truth, that you want to do good. The vibrations also feel like that. In Kali Yuga, the vibrations are such that if you want to do little bit spirituality, you have to put too much of effort because there is no universal energy which is pulling you up, it is just dragging you down. So every age it changes. So Krite yad dhyayato Vishnum in Satyuga, Satyuga is also known as Krita Yuga. What was achieved by meditation, that was the main process. You sit down, you close your eyes, you do Omkar, you meditate on the Supreme Absolute Truth on the center of the forehead, keeping your mind peaceful, free of thoughts. Now today there are people who say that I do meditation, I practice this and that, and I do believe in people who say that I practice meditation for 5-10 minutes, but if someone says I do 30-minute meditation, it's almost impossible. 30 minutes to keep your mind free of thoughts. Try to do that for 2 minutes. And be honest and genuine with yourself. It is almost or nearly impossible. So when the Yuga Dharma was meditating Vishnu, means you could sit for hours together. Naturally. That's not possible. How would you achieve? So he's saying Krite yad dhyayato Vishnu, whatever was done through meditation of Vishnu. Tretayam yajato makhe. In Treta Yuga, that same perfection was achieved by doing yajna or procedures. So when you are doing yajna, the process becomes simpler than meditation because you are using your mind and senses. It becomes more participative. You are using your hands and the fire, the sounds of mantras, and you feel engaged. Like when you want to make a small child sit for 5 minutes, it's difficult. When you give him a task, he gets engaged. So the yajna process was just knowing the standard has gone down, a person has become restless. So now use this mantra chanting procedures. So it is Tretayam Yajato Makhe, Dwapare Paricharyaya. So and then when Dwapara came, people stopped doing yajna also. So they simplified it. Okay, just do charity. Now this principle of charity is not meant only for grahasthas. Charity as a principle is a universal principle. Whoever is blessed with whatever in excess of the basic needs has to distribute that. For example, if a grahastha or a vaishya, person who is a businessman, if he has more money, then he should ensure that that money is given to someone who has less money. If a Brahmana or a wise person or a thinker, he has more knowledge and more understanding, the charity which he has to do is make sure that you spend time to guide or give knowledge, distribute knowledge to one who has less time and energy or opportunity to do that. One who has, that is called as Brahmana. So Brahmana do not have choice that you just keep reading and relishing scriptures in your own. That is not considered a healthy Brahmana. Where is the charity principle? You have to go preach, do something. Similarly, Grahastha life is that. Then Kshatriya. Kshatriya wield excessive power. So they have power extra. So what should they do? They should distribute power. How do you distribute it? You protect the innocent. You say, these are my people, my territory, it's protected. You are essentially distributing your power. And then the principle of Shudra. You do not have any of these abilities, but you have an ability of doing labor, hard work. So okay, I will give my labor to the other classes. So the principle is basically of charity. And charity has to be done consciously, not like forced charity. Where sometimes some loss happens or something happens, then you say, okay, then Bhagavan gets something. Not like that. It has to be conscious. Whichever stage of life you are in, you do not have an option. So that was Dwapar Yuga. Just by doing that, people could perfect. And at a certain age, people would give big in society in whichever way they would. So that is what is explained. In Kali Yuga, you will not have people who have abundant charitable nature because weak-minded, petty-minded, always disturbed, always thinking I don't have enough. So he is more poor actually than the poor guy. One who thinks I do not have enough is actually poor, right? Then you won't have people who will do yajna properly. For yajna you need a lot of processes, you need proper milk, proper ghee. Any of you have done yajnas here? Never. घर में किया कि कुछ छोटा मोटा किया है? So क्या क्या लगता है? दूध, ghee. Just a small thing. For yajna, the kind of milk you require has to be fetched from only certain kind of cows who are fed grass of a certain quality. That grass which has been cut on certain constellation period only, and which has been, the seed of which has been planted on a certain tithi. That milk is qualified for yajna. So, I have personally read that. From that you have to make ghee. Modern ghee does not classify as ghee of what the scriptures speak of ghee. So, when I first read those texts, I felt कि यार पूरा जिंदगी भर पूरा time pass हो गया. इतने अच्छे यज्ञ किए. But no, it's not time pass. You feel some positivity, some chance. But the true benefit, earlier times when yajna was done, things would appear and so on. Why? Because the ingredients were perfect. You have to have a proper time. There has to be an arrangement for all the ghosts and goblins, Pishach, Bhut and Pishach, who should not steal the benefit of yajna. So you need Adharvayus, Hotras, these are different kinds of priests, experts in Rig Veda and Atharva, who know what kind of tantric mantras should be put in which place. Because whenever there is an invocation of yajna, the ghosts and goblins, they come to take the subtle benefits of it for their own deliverance. So वो knowledge भी आजकल तो है ही बिल्कुल. So it's almost typically without it. So all those benefits will again that you can simply get Kalo Tad Hari Kirtana. So read the translation. Whatever result was obtained in Satyuga by meditating on Vishnu, in Treta Yuga by performing sacrifices, in Dwapar Yuga by serving the Lord's lotus feet, can be obtained in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the Hari Mantra. Prabhupada writes Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So, please do not consider these kind of things which you have got very simple, in simple methods. Sometimes people misunderstand that Hare Krishna means it is all about Kirtan. No, this is coming from the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Hari Kirtan principle is not that International Society of Krishna Consciousness has designed कि हमको कौन सा पद्धति चलाना है. It's not a whimsical spiritual that we follow this tradition. No, we follow the Bhagavatam tradition. There are so many spiritual gurus and processes. I'm not saying that they are wrong, but their ideas are not rooted in the idea of what is specifically for Kali Yuga. And therefore, no matter what path you follow, the Mahamantra or the Hari Kirtan is not an option, because it is the Yuga Dharma of this particular age. Kalau tad Hari Kirtanat, whatever you are getting in whichever Yuga, that same perfection you will get through Hari Kirtan. Very, very powerful shloka which comes. Then, in the Kali Samtaran Upanishad, it says, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Iti Shodashaka Namnam Kali Kalmashanashanam Natah Paratarupaya Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. These 16 names of the Lord has the power to destroy the evil effects of Kali Yuga. What are the evil effects? Not that you may immediately start feeling divine, but the energies which are constantly suppressing your divinity will start getting minimized. You will get inspired to do something good, something more kinder, something more divine. Kali Kalmasha Nashana. And then further it is saying, Natah Paratara Upaya. Paratara means better. There is no better solution. Sarva Vedeshu Drishyati. Even if you search the entire Vedic literature. What a bold claim this is. And who is speaking? Vyas, Shukdev Goswami, who has written all the literatures and who has been told by Narad Muni. That is why in the beginning we are discussing someone who has written a whole room full of books. He is saying, there is nothing better than this Hari Kirtan. Just to promote this simple thing, simple mantra, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he appeared, he told very simple things to his disciples. Who were his followers? Just ordinary people. One was a seller of banana leaves. In India, they put it on the plate, right? Banana leaves. He was just doing that business. Someone, an ordinary farmer. Just ordinary people. And every day evening they would come, Mahaprabhu would talk very ordinary things with them. How is your child? How is your wife? How is your daughter? How is your son? How is your husband? How is everything? Okay, now let's do Hari Kirtan. They would simply just read some shlokas of Bhagavatam, discuss some pastimes, exactly as which we are trying to do, and do Hari Kirtan. If you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, you will see none of the great grand austerities and chanting of mantras were taking place. A very, very simple process was being expressed, performed every single day, day after day. And the highest and highest of the experiences were when devotees were getting the highest of the experience. He would tell his followers, Nityanand Prabhu and Haridas Thakur, when they would say, Mahaprabhu, we want to serve you, what should we do? Mahaprabhu would say, Yare dekho tare kaho Krishna Upadesh. Whomever you meet, wherever you meet, just tell him something about Krishna. Tell him to chant the holy names. Just that. Sometimes, when you don't know what is the whole Bhagavatam and all the grand literature, and you just read this, you feel, oh, it was a bunch of sentimental people. Everybody has their sampradaya and path. No, this was not like that. This is a very, very serious thing. Something which is coming at the end of the Bhagavatam as conclusion. And emphasizing these particular words. We should take it very, very seriously. So because it is Kartik month, naturally this month has lots and lots of support from spiritual energy perspective. So I request all of you that you all take up to this process of chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. Very simple. Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
We should chant at least one mantra throughout our life. One mala. Take this vow. It's not asking too much. It's about 5-7 minutes of your time. If some of you feel that this is an institutional appeal, कि हम ISKCON वाले बना रहे हैं आपको, तो ISKCON में कभी मत जाना, लेकिन मंत्र मत छोड़ो. This mantra which we are speaking about, Kali Santana Upanishad Bhagavatam, essence of Vedic literature is Srimad Bhagavatam, and in that it is discussing essence of whole process is Hari Kirtan, and in that Hari Kirtan hundreds and thousands of name of God, everything is bona fide, but as a form of chanting, then the Hare Krishna mantra is concerned. Now, who would be such a foolish person still to ignore this kind of statements and just follow his own whims? So please don't take this lightly. Take this opportunity of Kali Yuga, take a vow, of Kartik, and take this vow that, my dear Lord, please empower me that I can take shelter of the holy names. All of you will not remember the lectures and stories which you have heard so many times. How long this program is going on, brother?
1 year.
1 year. How many of you have been coming from the first program?
From day one. Yeah,
Day one. What was the first lecture? And second? Yeah, after 2-3 you will not remember. You may remember the topic, you will not remember the details. But mantra you will never forget. It's okay you don't remember details. Even though you know 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita, Prakriti, Kal, Karma, Ishwar, Jeev, that is the topic. उसमें क्या समझ में आया? ईश्वर समझ में आया? क्या जीव समझ में आया? Did you understand what जीव तत्व? What is it? What is karma? No. Those things are going to take an entire life or maybe many lifetimes. To assimilate is a totally different subject matter altogether. Even just understanding tattva is a very. Therefore, even though you have scriptures, even though you have coming regularly for satsang, all of them is good and you must continue, but not without the Mahamantra. That is not an option. One must take up to this process. If you do not chant, all the studies and the lectures which you hear, you will not know how to assimilate it. वो ज्ञान ऐसे, it will come in the mind and then it will go. To take it inside, you need that ability to assimilate. रहता है ना? If you put good food in your stomach, there must be fire and hunger to digest it. So knowledge is like that, but if you do not have sadhana, it will not create the ability, the fire to digest the knowledge. And therefore my humble request to all of you who have not yet started chanting, make this day as a beginning. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. If anyone has any questions.